Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 71 of the Pet Behaviour Chat. And we're going to have a super interesting conversation today all about telehealth, which I think is something that's definitely up and coming and has proven to be such a valuable service, I think, in the veterinary sector as a whole. But I have with me today the two lovely ladies from CAM, which is Canine Arthritis Management, a UK-based company that gives support to caregivers and vets all around canine arthritis, chronic pain. And I'm sure you'll have heard Hannah and I have conversations before, but today we also have the lovely Evie joining us, who is part of CAM and sort of also part of the Teleguidance service that they offer. So hello, both of you. Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to see you again.
And why don't you guys just introduce yourselves and introduce a little bit the Teleguidance service that you want to chat about. Hannah, do you want to kick things off and just let us know who you are, who CAM is, what the Teleguidance is that you're offering? And then Evie, maybe you can give us your input into the topic as well.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Dr. Hannah Capon. I'm a vet based in the UK. I'm particularly obsessed with managing chronic pain, specifically arthritis. And that kind of started around about 2015. So we're coming up 10 years. This is terrifying. If you took a photo of me 10 years ago, it would be way more pleasurable. But during this journey of wanting to improve the lives of dogs and realizing about the time investment that we put into the individual dog, where the caregivers like already on board, they understand that there's going to be an investment of time, energy, maybe finances. We put a huge amount of energy into that one individual. And I, about 8 years ago, thought, well, what happens if you could use that time and magnify it by 100, 1,000? And that's why the social media started, in that I got permission from these caregivers to take photos, videos, take notes and share their story so that people could learn vicariously. And that's the Facebook page, and it grew into the website and everything that you see now. When we went on social media, we started having horrendous echoes of people that are struggling, and they wanted to share their stories. And at that time, it was a page. So anybody that knows social media, Facebook is, if you have a page, it means that you control the posting and people can reply in threads. Groups are very different. Groups, you can, anybody can post. So at that point we had a page, and I kept getting numerous long, heartfelt stories of how people were struggling to manage their dog's condition. And that led us to setting up the group Holly's Army. So that's a group, so people could post their stories, what they were going through. And it wasn't just for advice about what drug or what supplement. It was, I'm really struggling. I'm not coping. My family don't understand. I feel lonely. So there was a real coaching aspect required in it, not just advice, not hard, dry advice. But at that point, I didn't want to step on the toes of vets. I didn't want to annoy anybody. I didn't want to look like I was stealing business, or anything like that. So we really made sure that we didn't offer a tailored service. But in the last year, the world's changed a lot now, and there's a lot of telehealth providers out there. So it's not like I'd be doing anything that isn't already standardized. So we spoke to the Royal Vet College, said, how do you feel about us trying to set up more of a coaching service, a guidance service, where we work with the first opinion practitioners? The patient stays very much with them, but we do a lot of the background work for them. We educate and empower that caregiver to go back and get shit done. So they were like, no, quite like that. That's all right. You fit within our category. That's okay. You are a limited service provider. Go for it. Fill your boots. And that's what we're doing. We're filling our boots. We've created a service that we feel can help those individuals that want more support. And it isn't just limited to factual advice. It is also a coaching service that really supports people on what is quite an arduous journey. Sorry, I stole the airwaves loads then, didn't I?
Not at all. Yeah. So exactly. That sounds amazing. Evie, what's your role in the whole Teleguidance service? Where do you come in?
So I am a registered veterinary nurse in the UK. I'm still in practice, and then I work for CAM 2 days a week and in my spare time, where we fit in the Teleguidance service, which fits quite nicely because I can do evenings, weekends, things like that, which is times where people that are normally working and don't have time to actually go into their vet, so it fits into their schedule quite nicely. So what I offer is a free oh my God, what's it called?
Discovery. It's called a discovery call.
You know, when you're like, it's a discovery call, and then you go to say it and it's gone. So I offer a free discovery call with the client prior to booking any other appointment. There's no obligation to booking an appointment, but we just have a discussion about what's going on with the case, what they want to get out of the Teleguidance service, what vet might work best for that case, and then I'm able to help them with that. And then I also offer nurse-led clinics, so like your weight clinics, your pain clinics, things like that you receive in practice, but we can actually do them from the comfort of their own home at a time that's actually going to work well for them.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And so I offer a similar service. I offer a, either a vet to vet or vet to pet care professional service where I'm supporting vets with behavior cases, usually surrounding medication, because that's usually the number one question that you get. And just the reach that you're able to have is so much wider, isn't it? And I'm sure you feel the same way, because if you're a vet in practice, so obviously I'm based over here in Abu Dhabi and, very much limited to Abu Dhabi, maybe the UAE from a geographical point of view, but all of a sudden your reach just grows so much further, and the amount of animals that you're able to help, like you said, Hannah, right? That kind of not just the single animal, but what if you could do this for the tens, the hundreds, the thousands? That is really, I think, where one of sort of the really beautiful aspects of the telehealth and the teleguidance service. So yeah, I think it's definitely an area that's growing in many different sort of sub areas within the veterinary industry, especially what you've just said, that limited knowledge or limited services area, where actually we might have that time to do the discovery calls, we do something similar, and then to do the consultations and understand actually what people really need. And that then translates, through to their vets and their pets, which is obviously the thing that we want to affect. So chat me through a little bit, Hannah, about like, how would you go through a teleguidance appointment? What are the things that you would discuss with the caregiver or the vet, depending on who you speak to? Is it just a service for vets, or do you speak to pet owners as well?
It's the caregiver. We're working with the caregiver, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate to say it, we're doing the hard stuff. So me and Evie are both really fortunate in that we've done a huge amount of time in first opinion practice. Both of which, we do enjoy it. We love it. We love working with each other. It's great. Every day is fun working with Evie. And it gives us this ability to look at what's deliverable in practice and what isn't. And let's really be honest about it. There is a lot that we can't deliver in practice. For that dog and the situation, we've got all the understanding now that their behavior changes in practice. It's stressful. It's not a pleasant experience for many dogs. But also the caregiver becomes inhibited. They feel stretched, stressed, rushed. And by offering a service in the comfort of their own home, where they've got the opportunity to think, they've got the opportunity to pause, to stutter, to kind of reflect, is really, really beneficial, especially when you're dealing with a disease that might be with that animal for 10 years. 12 years. Let's put it into context here. 15-minute quick check in a stressful situation for 10 years of pain. So I'm really passionate about the fact that the service gives time. And it's not just the hour that they have with us. I'm never on time either. It's always like an hour and a half. I really need to get under control with this because it's eating into my private time. My drinking time is being affected by my teleguidance service. But we end up having photos, videos. We have questionnaires that we ask them to fill in. Me, James and Katie probably spend an hour to 2 hours minimum looking through what's happened to them, listening to their answers and reading between the lines of what they're doing well, what they're struggling with, what their needs, their ambitions. So we come into the consultation with a completely different mindset to what I would do in first opinion practice, where the client comes in cold. I'm already time stressed. I'm trying to manage the computer, handle the animal, I've got all the baggage of the things that I need to be getting done, the blood reports, the phone calls, the surgeries. So it's a completely different concept. And so far, the ones that we're doing, people are actually blown away with how much they get out of it. And it's not just that they feel knowledge equipped, they feel emotionally equipped, and they feel that somebody's actually really listened to what they're worried about. So for me, I'm loving it. And what I really want to happen, I want to get so many under my belt, a bit like you and your case reports. I can remember watching you online, 395, I've got 5 to go. I want to get 400 teleconsults under my belt so I can teach this. That's what I want to do. Because I want in my lifetime chronic pain to be managed differently. It is not 15 minutes in a stressful practice on a slippery floor, on a small room with overhead flickering lights with a stress donor. That's not how you manage pain that's going to be with an animal for years, is it? Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, and we've spoken about this so often, how many parallels there are between what you guys do and what I do, or what we as veterinary behaviorists do. I mean, everything that you've just said just sounds so very familiar. Having the time, but like you said, going into the consult already with a different mindset and pre-prepared, because just like you, I go through all of the questionnaires, and the questionnaires are lengthy. I've watched all the videos that they've sent. I look at what are their major defining things that they're coming to me with, and that can sometimes be different to perhaps what maybe the animal's presenting with, but actually what the owner really needs is something completely different. And then being able to spend that time, and my consults are anywhere between 60 and 120 minutes depending on what we're doing, and spending that time and really getting to know them, getting to know their lifestyle, having them virtually in the comfort of their home. And also for me, I sometimes get patients that are so fearful of leaving the house or getting in the car that they physically can't come for an appointment, and it's not feasible to do a home visit in some of these cases. So having the opportunity to actually be able to help them remotely is just priceless, really. And I think, like you guys have said as well, since COVID, the world's just changed, and it's become a lot more accessible, I think, and people are a lot more, oh yeah, that's just what we do these days. Whereas beforehand, I think that was a bit different.
Yeah, definitely. I had to write a presentation recently about team. I'm just going to go on a tangent here now. I will come back, I promise. But so I had to write this presentation about team. It was a pretty dull title, Maximise Team Approach to Pain Management. Oh my God, kill myself. But it really did make me think about this concept of team and how 2D we still are in the vet sector, in that we see the team as being who's in the building. It's not. The team is humans that are outside the building, but also the team now is non-human tools to help us be a team. And things like being able to use telehealth, use AI, use digital like wearables, that's partly team. And, what is interesting is the vet sector. Some practices are kind of pulling up their drawbridge and really trying to keep all services in-house. And other practices are, I think, seeing that to survive, you've got to look at all the services that you can provide, and they don't need to be just by you. And what I'm really hoping is to start working with practices that go, do you know what? Managing chronic pain in-house is time consuming. It's really quite demoralizing for the team at times. How could we use a service where we still get the sales and the services, but we have other people that are doing a lot of the legwork? And that's the kind of union that I want to see. I want practice to go, look, you're going to spend, the hour with my client. You can do all the research. You're going to take, let's be brutal, your cut for your time. But that client's going to come back into my practice with a different mindset. That client's going to be purchasing the medications, the prescription foods, if need be, the further services, the further investigations. This is a win-win. Everybody's happy, right? And that's what we've got to kind of start thinking about, is to survive in the current market that we're in, where we've got a lot of competitors, non-veterinary competitors, who are online, who are sharing their wise words of misinformation. We need to start looking how we can be vets of the future, I feel.
Yeah, No, totally agree. And so with obviously both of you working together so closely, so speaking about teams, the veterinary nurses...
Oh, I love her. Sorry, I've got to say that. I love her. I love her.
But the veterinary nurses have such an important role to play in this as well, don't they? Evie, how do you guys work together? Tell me a bit about, not the crazy side of Hannah, but how do you actually work together?
So, I mean, me and Hannah are really lucky that, yes, we have the same interests, and also we get on well as friends as well. So that's definitely helped the bond and making sure that we work well as a team. But I think from the word go, we basically wanted to make each other's services successful. So I wanted Hannah to be successful in the clients she was seeing, and she wanted me to be successful in the nurse clinics that I was running. We bounced off each other, and when we were speaking to clients, we'd be like, oh, I think you might be best to go and see Hannah and help her that way. And Hannah would also get me to do, if they were clients that wanted to continually see Hannah and no one else, then Hannah would get me to do just some phone check-ins just to make sure that the plan that Hannah had given them, they were getting on okay with it and things like that. So I think that's how we started to like bounce things back and forth, wasn't it, Hannah? And things like that. And I think even now with the Teleguidance, even though we're on other ends of the country and the whole Teleguidance team is all splattered around everywhere, I think that's a really nice thing, is because we've all got the same interests and everyone's got different areas that they're more competent in. If you get a case that you're like, I don't know what to say in this instance, we have a group chat and we bounce off each other, and it might be that James has actually had a lot more dealings with that type of case, and then he's able to give us information and we're able to push forward with that. So I think that's really nice about the Teleguidance services, that because we have a broad array.
Can I big up the team? Can we just do a little bit?
Sure.
So let's start with the kingpin, James. He's not going to like me saying this at all because he's ridiculously humble. But James is one of the kindest, I'd say humble vets I know, you know. So he's a specialist in ethics and welfare that brings a whole different dynamic to it, in that there's always the question in his head of what is the right thing for this animal at this time. And I love working with that, where your kind of academic ego is always harnessed by your understanding of it's in the best interest of that animal, and that is paramount. So he's got that in his core. He was born with it. He might have just done an exam about it, but he was also born with it. But he's also done a PhD in all surrounding chronic pain management. So his level of understanding about neurobiology and the mechanisms, and he has this amazing ability to think outside the box. And I'm actually hoping to go and start working with him in his clinic, because he's doing perineural injections and he's really pushing out there how we can better manage chronic pain more interventionally, rather than our established pharmaceuticals and our integrative. So James, little legend. And then we got Dr. Katie, who, like me and Evie, I think we're funny spoons. We find each other quite funny. She is the kindest, again, really humble. She left university, knew she wanted to work in anaesthesia and pain management and rehabilitation. She spent a bit of time at the Smart Clinic. She's then gone off on her own. She now runs her own mobile referral service, where she goes into practices and guides them with improving their anaesthesia practices. She works in ECC, but she also runs a chronic pain service, and she's a peripatetic service. And she works in a number of practices in and around Wales. So she's got a huge amount of experience that she's bringing to the team as well. Then there's obviously amazing Evie, who at a conference the other day, get this, somebody actually wrote, wish we had an Evie in our practice. So she stood up and presented in front of a room of people. She was absolutely adorable from the moment she opened her mouth, and you could see that there were vets in the audience just going, I wish we had an Evie. And she's just so kind. For our like front person, you know, she always does the right thing for that caregiver and sends them in the right direction. She's got a huge emotional capacity to see it from somebody else's perspective. So yeah, I absolutely adore our team. I think we've got the ability to bring something really, really novel, needed, and like just progressive to the vet sector, really.
Really quite special. And so essentially, if somebody does sign up for your telehealth service, they're getting essentially all of you, right? Because you discuss cases between you if you have questions or you're not sure. So they're getting, you know, this whole team approach of a number of different skill sets, personality types, you know, knowledge backgrounds, which is, I mean, that's almost invaluable. I mean, you know, how can you pay for that? It's really quite special. And I think having somebody like Evie fronting up the discovery calls is genius, right? Because you want to make that connection with that caregiver and establish that relationship and that bond early on and help them feel safe and like they're being supported. So we have something similar. So I either have Ben and or Nora, you know, taking some of the discovery calls that we have. Sometimes I do them myself. But yeah, it's really important because I think sometimes people want to understand what they're getting themselves into, and they just have some questions around how's it actually going to work? I don't really understand. So that's a super valuable piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that we're hoping off the back of it is that the reports that are written that go to the caregiver and to the vet, the same report. Okay, so we really feel quite strongly about this, is that we will not be rewriting it into a different kind of language and different scenarios. It's complete openness of what we've discussed with that client. And that report will go to both the owner, the caregiver, and the vet. We're hoping that the vet goes, oh, I could establish this in my practice. Oh, actually, this isn't hard to do. Oh, actually, these are really common sense, some of these things that they talked about. So we're hoping it will have a ripple effect into the practice, and the practice service provision will change off the back of it. We're also hoping even more that those practices then go, well, we're going to get them in. They're going to come and train. Because as I said at the beginning, I want to be you, Katrina, obviously, because I want to do 400 cases and I want to then teach. We want practices to see that this is something that they could do themselves. So they could start using the service. They could start realizing, actually, there's a lot more to be done with chronic pain. Then they have us come in. We train the practice, receptionists, vets, nurses, the whole team, and they set up their own. You know, this is about the bigger picture, is changing the way that we manage chronic pain.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so, I mean, what I've done a couple of times, and this has been such a big, like, not just eye opener for me, but a bit sad, because I've had so much feedback of, oh my God, we would never get that with anyone else. So if I've had referrals from trainers, so I work with a few trainers in the UK that have referred cases to me, and I've just said to them, look, when I have the call with a client, just hop on. If the client's comfortable, if the owner's comfortable, you being there, be on the call as well, because we're all, you want to hear what I'm saying. I want to know what you can do from your side to help implement some of the things I recommend. So let's just all be on the call together, as long as you've got the time and the owner of the pet is happy to do so. But they're, you know, and then they say, oh my God, are you sure? Yeah, absolutely. My God, anybody else that I've ever asked, you know, they would just have like closed door. No, absolutely. You can't, you know, be present. Well, I don't know, what's the point of that? If you're all then going to be implementing for the same pet and working with the same
then
pet,
you have to write more reports. That's what you have to do.
Yeah,
I hate
exactly.
reports.
And who wants that? Yeah, so do I. So yeah, I totally agree. It should be much more of an open door policy, and everybody should be working together and not be so protective and shy of sharing their knowledge.
You know why that's happening? We're all getting more and more defensive in who we are, because society wants everybody to be amazing, you know, perfect, specialist. When you're worried about meeting that standard, you become defensive, don't you? And you close the doors because you don't want to see people. You let people see your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. And I think if all of us were to kind of go, look, I know what I know, and there's going to be stuff I don't know, but that's okay, you know? And I think, you know, again, I get quite soapboxy about this. Are we heading in the right direction? I'm not sure. And I think something to be really cognizant is how we represent ourselves. There's so much I don't know. There is so much I don't know. But I know enough to help somebody, and I'd be more than happy to have somebody come in on my console. And if they pull me up on something, I'll go, God, yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about it like that. But there is a vulnerability that we're all kind of like trying to protect ourselves from, isn't there?
There is, but then I feel, it's our duty to actually step up a little bit in those situations, because that is driven by ego. And that is, at the end of the day, not the right thing for the pet, the caregiver, and everyone else. So it requires a little bit of something from all of us as a profession to actually just step up a bit, I think that's, yes, I know exactly what you're saying. People get defensive. The more I've learned, the more studying I've done, the more I know how much I don't know. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm
not okay with it yet. I won't lie. I'm not okay with it yet. I'm aware of it and I'm dealing with it. It might be a drawn out process, pub visits, fireplaces, discussions. I'm aware of it. I think it's very hard to deal with, I know me and Evie talk about this all the time. We're like each other's agony aunt, and I'll kind of bawl down the phone, and she'll be like, "Oh God, Hannah, you're my hero." And then there'll be times when, she never says that. Don't worry. But then it'll be. Then. I know. I forewarned her that this would be videoed, where you didn't let me know last time, did you? But then the vice versa. There's times that Evie will contact me and say, I'm not good enough to do this anymore. And I think we all feel it, don't we, Evie?
Yeah, and I think another thing is, like, it's really highlighted to me is all the time I get nurses emailing me like, "Oh, what extra qualifications have you done? Like, where did you do that?" And I've got my registered veterinary nurse. I'm a registered veterinary nurse, and the rest of the time I've listened to Facebook Lives. I worked alongside Hannah, and I found out what works for my clients. I think that's the most important thing, and it's the thing that I hear time and time again with speaking to people face to face, through teleguidance, things like that. They just want time, and they want someone to listen, and they want continuity, and they want someone to care. So if you're able to just show a bit of empathy for what they're going through and give them time to talk, that's worth way more than a qualification.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Says me, who's just done 2 board exams.
I know.
But I do agree.
Your agony. I've been watching going, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's kind of overish now. So, but no, I completely agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said for that human factor that doesn't require any qualification at all. Just being able to show some understanding, give people time, listen, actually properly listen, not just have the words washing over you, but actually properly listen, and understanding, being empathetic, letting people know you're in their corner, you will support them no matter what they're going through. I think those things are, again, you almost can't put a price on them, right? And I completely agree that the veterinary sector is very stretched at the moment. I know that vets haven't got a lot of time. I know that the majority of vets and vet nurses find it hard to give that, right? Which is that kind of basic human connection piece, because they're just stretched and they're struggling themselves and they're burning out themselves. But that's, again, coming back to that, we all just need to kind of step up a little bit. And it's not like we have to change everything in a heartbeat in a moment, but just moving that tiny little step closer towards what we think people and patients need, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a really famous phrase, people don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care.
Right.
And I think that's a really big principle. Like, I don't think I'm a great vet at all. I've winged it through the last 23 years. But whenever I'm beginning to kind of, grasping on the pavement with my fingernails, I think, no, I'm okay, because I still really care. And that's really, really important. You can look in textbooks, you can ask experts, you can, formulate a plan. If you lose your care, I think that's when give up. But the other thing that we know that people want, we know this, is they want continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to know that person who put on the brave face and they actively listened is going to be there again. So they don't have to go through that vulnerability and that self-explanation time and time again. So I think if anybody's listening going, oh, I'm not good enough, principles, 2 C's, care and continuity, got them in your bag, you're going to be great.
Yeah. Just that showing up piece, isn't it? Just making sure you continue to show up.
Yeah.
I think also if anyone's listening that is in a practice and is like, I don't have time to spend and go through that, and they feel stressed about that, then that's what these teleguidance services are for. And if you don't feel like that, your clients aren't going to be mad that you're sending them away. I think they'd rather receive that, and they're more likely to stay at your practice and feel on board with your team if they've offered that, than try and dibble in and out and get fed up and just I
agree with that. I spent 8 hours of my life yesterday on Holly's Army, which is our community group, and the amount of people that say those little like throwaway statements of, I'm not really sure my vet cares, or my vet didn't really give me the time, or no, they didn't really answer that question, or I'm not really sure that they're aware that his pain's got worse, or I don't really know who to turn to. It's common. We've got 17,000 caregivers in that group, and we do hear brilliant stories about caregivers that are so impressed with their vet services, but we also hear a lot of stories where people don't feel that they're given time at all.
Yeah, interesting. So let me ask you this then about the teleguidance service. So if you did have a vet or a veterinary nurse who was really interested in learning a bit more about chronic pain and chronic pain management, and if they had a client who wanted to make use of your teleguidance service, would they be able to listen in? Would they be able to come on board?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes that can be a little bit of a scary piece maybe for some vets or vet nurses, is kind of not giving over control, but not being sure what's being discussed in those calls, and whether that's then something that they're okay with, or then the client coming back and saying something, and the context is maybe off, or there's been Chinese whispers or whatever. And I think that's been something that's been super helpful for me, just being able to say to people, God, if your vet wants to come on the call with us, please. That makes it so much more valuable for everybody, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that, because Chinese whispers, I don't think we're allowed politically to say that anymore. Don't know.
Oh, God.
No, yeah, seriously. It's all changing. It's all changing, Catherine.
Sorry. If anyone's listening, sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, but basically the story changes every time it gets repeated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we know that a client is likely to remember, I think the figures was around about 40%. And if they do remember, say 40%, if that, they remember 50% of it wrong. So think about the dregs that get to the next person,
Exactly, yeah.
And I know that in the service that we're providing, we are very comprehensive, and we do follow the rules of trying to go over things 3 times, so people are hearing the same kind of input. More than happy for people to come and step in and have a listen. It's like having a work experience student. We love them.
Yeah. Same. Exactly. And what would you say, Evie, if there are veterinary nurses listening who want to know a little bit more? Like what's been, I know you've had the fortune of working alongside Hannah and being very much kind of exposed to this sort of thing, but where do you think nurses can kind of get their knowledge and CPD and experience from?
So I will do a bit of a plug for the CAM member zone, because that is where a lot of my CPD comes from. But we created a nurse flip chart, which basically is what I run all of my consults from. So it works so that there's a side for the owners to view and then a side for the vet nurse. So on the vet nurse's side, it gives you prompts, things that I would say normally, so that when you're discussing each step, there's 11 steps throughout the flip chart. You don't get to the end of the consult and think, oh my God, I didn't mention weight loss. I was talking about so many other things. And then they started talking about, can they keep ball throwing and all of this, that I forgot to talk about weight loss, and this dog is 9 out of 9 body condition score. So it takes them through a methodical way, so that I know when you first start up consults, you first do that consult, you're literally in there and you're like, right, I've got so much to remember. I'm really nervous. This is my first, but are they going to think it's value for money? So it just takes a bit of that pressure off. So that's within our member zone, in the nurse downloadable section, and it's free to download when you are a member.
Which is only £35 for a year.
Which is
super value, isn't it?
Can you say that again, Catherine? Please.
Super value.
Thank you.
And we also have our thousands of past Facebook Lives, which are just so incredible. Hannah has done so well in interviewing hundreds of different people, including yourself, Catherine. And they're just so valuable. And every time I listen to one, I take away, even if it's just 1 point, that's 1 point that's adding to to that. We also have our chronic pain symposium in April, which we have 4 days of super exciting lectures from super exciting people, which will be able to develop.
Can I just butt in a minute? I just had a moment. I don't know if you saw, my face just went a bit blank, but do you remember Cambridge, Evie, when we interviewed Catherine? It was like the other, it was a reverse. Me and Evie were dressed up, ready to go drinking, and we were interviewing Catherine. I don't know where you were in the one. I think you were in Abu Dhabi.
I was here, and you both had wine in hand. I remember that very well.
I just had a complete step back in time, and how now the role is reversed. But sorry, Evie, carry on.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to watch that live, it is in the members.
It is.
But yeah, we have our chronic pain symposium, which we're putting so much work into, and we've got some incredible speakers. And that is it. I can't remember how many hours of CPD it is now, Hannah.
So around about 40 hours.
40 hours, yeah.
So, and it's let me just say this: it's free of charge. What do you think about that, Catherine? Do you think that's good value?
Again, incredible value.
Thanks for that. We don't want there to be any obstacles to people not learning more about chronic pain. We feel so strongly that to really manage this epidemic that we have, the interdisciplinary team needs to be employed, and that means all canine professionals and veterinary professionals. And because we all have different price points by which we live by, CPD budget for a vet is different to a nurse, which is different to a dog trainer. So we decided to wipe the board of it and make it free. You can support CAM by buying a VIP ticket. That would be a best Christmas present for us. We are self-funded. But for all of it, for the 4 days, it's only, I think, £125.
Yeah.
So we're talking key opinion leaders, world-class speakers, 4 days in a row. I'm just going to do a bit of name dropping because I can. Professor Daniel O'Neill, he's a legend. He's talking about innate health. I'm getting to be his little kind of Sherpa. I'm going to pop in asking some politically incorrect questions, which he wants me to ask him. And he's like, just go on, ask me that question so I can let rip. And we got the likes of Joe Murrow that we've teamed up with Sue Patterson to talk about ear-related pain. Oh my God, can you imagine having the ears that we see with our scopes? Just imagine living with that degree of discomfort. So we've got that little gem there. We've got a lady called Valentina coming in to talk about dental pain, massively overlooked. We've got Sarah Heath bringing her star guest, and I've completely forgotten her name. Catherine Clark, that's it. They're coming to talk about visceral pain. So we're beginning to really open the doors to all of these pains that really are hard to see.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited. For me, it's going to be a massive CPD bonanza.
Yeah, such a great event. Looking forward to it. Yeah, already now looking forward to it. And it's a couple of months away. So yeah,
couple of months away.
Going to be a great event. Amazing. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up. Unless you guys have got any sort of parting words. I think we've covered quite a lot today, and I think we've given everybody a pretty broad overview of everything that is possible and available, both to caregivers and to other pet care professionals, whether that's vet nurses, trainers, groomers, walkers, whoever you are. But yeah, if you've got any parting words of wisdom before we wrap up, Evie, let's go over to you. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
I'd just like to say that if there is any veterinary nurses or vets or anything like that that want to use our telehealth service or want to set something up in their own practice, just drop us an email, because like me and Hannah said, we want practices to be changing the way that they're dealing with chronic pain. It's not a secret what we're doing. We want to share that knowledge. So please get in touch with us, and we'll help you and support you where we can.
Amazing. And obviously we're going to put all the links in the show notes to, the Teleguidance service, and all the other things that you've spoken about, the member zone and the chronic pain symposium. So I will get those links off you guys, and anybody can find those in the show notes of this podcast episode. And with that, Hannah, over to you for some final words before we wrap things up.
Yeah, so me and Evie get messages daily from people that want to do more. And what I would say is please those people, sit down with a cup of tea and a notepad and just start thinking a bit outside the box, because it might not be that you specifically, that person do more by setting up a service because your practice doesn't allow it. But there are now services, there's numerous services that you can tap into that can do it for you. So you can go to bed at night going, I'm doing the best that I can. It doesn't have to be you to do that workload. You could be that amazing, like, intermediary that sends people on the direction that they need to go.
Yep.
And don't feel defeated by it. That doesn't mean that you've not done a good job. It means you've done an amazing job.
Yeah. And I think that goes for caregivers and, you know, pet care professionals alike. Yeah, it's not that the onus is just on us all the time, but I think it's having that kind of outside the box thinking, like you said, Hannah, to be able to know, oh, hang on a second, you know, there's that and there's this and there's that and there's this. And if we manage to put all of these together somehow, then maybe we can actually get a satisfactory outcome for this patient, for this caregiver, for my dog, for my cat, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah. So
let me
just
because I think probably the biggest thing that I hear from the behaviourists in the training sector is the dog went back, or the cat, but mostly dog. The dog went back to their vet, but they couldn't find anything wrong.
Yeah, I know.
And let's think about that. That vet's got 10 to 15 minutes in a stressful environment, and they're being put in a position where they've got to make a decision to prescribe. That's kind of where we're heading. And that comes with risks of adverse events, clients being unhappy with the end result, etc. So if they can't overtly see something, they're not going to put their neck on the line and start prescribing blindly, are they? But just imagine if we were able to step in between and give that vet all the tools, all of the observations that really do collectively say, you're safe to do this. There is enough evidence here to suggest that there is pain. You're safe to do this. That's going to be really beneficial, isn't it? So I think we've already got a vast amount of clients that could have a different experience.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's, you know, that is probably the one thing that I see most in terms of frustration levels with working with other vet professionals is the client coming back and saying, my vet said there's nothing wrong. There is no pain. And then me being, well, how did they determine that? And that's where that, like you say, that intermediary position is missing. And yeah, that's hopefully something that will change as we start moving forwards. Well, it has to change, doesn't it, really? Yeah. So to recap, we did talk mainly about telehealth today. So your guys' amazing teleguidance service will be, like I say, access to it will be in the show notes. I will put on my social media posts surrounding this podcast episode as well. And obviously, if you're a vet or pet care professional that needs some additional help with behavior, I also have vet to vet and vet to pet care professional consults, but also client consults that are done virtually. And I can see animals from many, many areas around the world. So it is definitely something that is out there for everybody to start making use of if they feel so inclined. I actually saw clients from the US last week into cat aggression case that just struggle to find help elsewhere. So it's such a valuable tool. So
it really is. Like, we've got owners in Holly's Army, they're like from Nova Scotia. For them to go and see the vet's like 15-hour round trip, you know. So there are a lot of people out there that really don't have physical access.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Alrighty. Thank you both so much for an enlightening conversation, as always, for towing the line on trying to make the world better for pets, caregivers, everybody out there. And yeah, obviously the service that you both offer is so invaluable, and I hope more people start hearing about it. So thanks for joining me. And to everyone else, we will see you next week for episode 72. Bye for now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.